Welcome to our special call meeting. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for personnel recommendations. Second. All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? Okay, the motion passed, and we will go into executive session. Coming out of executive session, there was no action taken. At this time, I will
Madam Chairman,
entertain a motion. Yes, sir.
I move to approve the personnel recommendations as presented by the administration.
Seconded by Mr. Meek. Any questions? All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries. At this time, we will now call the meeting to order for the Committee of the Whole. The first, yes, sir.
Did you adjourn the other meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chairman, I move we adjourn our special call meeting.
And there's a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? Okay. We are now out of special call meeting, executive session. At this time, I'll call the Committee of the Whole to order. Do I have a motion to accept consent calendar?
Motion to accept.
Any questions? All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries. 2.0 instruction, Ms. Wells.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells. The first item on our agenda for instruction today is the appearance of visitors. We have none, so we are going to move on to item 2.02, Summit Drive Elementary School Focus. This is being presented by the administration. Dr. Royster, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. Good morning.
Good morning.
As Mr. McCoy and Ms. Byrd and Ms. Helms come forward, just a little background. We're presenting this as information to you this morning, a fine-tuning of the focus at Summit Drive with the addition of a new element there. And I think you might ask, well, why are we bringing that forward? Just as information, just to provide additional insight to you. Well, both of those things are true, but also with the idea in mind, as you recall, we're putting an addition on Summit Drive. Part of the reason for the addition to Summit Drive, it is one of the elementary schools located in and around the city of Greenville. There was space there for us to add to it, more so than is available at the other elementary schools, to help address growth in and around the city of Greenville among our elementary population. By adding those seats and by putting in place a program there that we believe will appeal to the families of elementary students, it's our hope to populate those additional seats, not just through growth in the established attendance area for Summit Drive, but also to provide relief to those other schools, elementary schools located in and around the city of Greenville, by offering priority choice to those communities to help relieve what we anticipate will likely be overcrowding in those schools as we move forward, coincidental with the opening of the addition at Summit Drive. So this will give you background in the kind of program that will be available there, and we believe it is a program that will attract and draw students and their families from other schools wanting to be a part of that program at Summit Drive. Mr. McCoy?
Thank you, Dr. Royster. Ms. Helms and Ms. Byrd are going to do a good bit of this presentation as well. And I wanted to just start off and remind you of a couple of things that we do here, how we roll out, kind of deciding what choice a school might be going forward. We kind of follow the same process. But there's a little over kind of background here. Just the entrepreneurial design is the focus that we have chosen for Summit Drive. Ms. Hallam's going to speak a little bit about that process and the buy-in from the staff and how it connects to some of the other initiatives they already have going on with Leader in Me. So she's going to speak a little bit more of that. Similar though, as you know, Greenville is a thriving business community, and so we felt that entrepreneurship was a good fit for all students because of the skills it teaches students, regardless of whether they're going to be an entrepreneur or whether they're going to go out into a workforce and work for somebody. But some of the things that you can see up there, just that it teaches kids to think outside the box. And so that creativity that we talk a lot about with the 21st century skills that all kids need, not just kids that may want to start their own business, but how to think independently. Nurture some of the unconventional talents and skills. So how do we foster those students, those hidden talents some of the students might have through this entrepreneurial process? And it creates opportunity. So again, particularly maybe some from students who are in our lower socioeconomic, being able to encourage those students that anything is possible with the right skills and right education that you have for the future. Instills the confidence. One of the things that they'll talk about a little bit is that whole failing forward piece that we've kind of emphasized in many of our schools over the last couple of years, but that students need the opportunity to fail so that they can try again and that not just give up after the first time. So that confidence that I can make this happen and I can do it. And then ultimately, of course, long-term, people who are, obviously big business-based, starting their own businesses in that world stimulates the economy, just not locally, of course, but nationally. So just as you'll recall, I think you just saw this prior to with Fountain Inn's presentation. Summit Drive's curriculum will be the same curriculum that we have for every elementary school in Greenville County Schools. So the curriculum has not changed. The standards are the same that we do. We will have a little bit of a different delivery model. We're going to talk a little bit about the design thinking delivery model and how the content instruction will be delivered. And then finally, that last focus area will be on leadership and entrepreneurial design. So again, if you remember from the Fountain Inn presentation, that focus area is what informs the curriculum. So the curriculum stays the same, the base stays the same. However, it is informed by leadership and entrepreneurial design through how they design the projects and how they deliver the content. So Ms. Helms is going to talk a little bit about how these two mesh with a profile South Carolina graduate and a little bit about their journey to arrive at this focus area.
Pull it down a little bit. Good morning. So what we wanted to demonstrate was the alignment of the profile of the South Carolina graduate with what we are currently doing and what we will be doing at Summit Drive. We wanted to touch on the life and career characteristics. Summit Drive is in our third year of the Leader in Me, which is the foundation for our school. If you're not familiar with it, it's based on Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in a child-friendly version. And so our teachers teach the 7 habits through direct and indirect instruction. And they do this every day. In fact, next week we are having a leadership day to showcase what Leader in Me is all about for our community and family. We also wanted to talk about how the world-class skills, which is creativity, collaboration, innovation, communication, and problem solving, directly aligns with the design thinking model. And we'll be sharing the design thinking model with you in just a minute. And also with the South Carolina standards, which, as Jeff mentioned, is the core of what we do here at Summit Drive and throughout the state. And again, Leader in Me is based on the 7 habits. It's the belief that every child can be a leader and every child has gifts and talents. And what we do at Summit Drive for the last 3 years is children have leadership roles both in the classroom and school-wide. They have had the opportunity to interview, which is a great skill for lifelong. They have a chance to submit resumes, and then they're selected for these various positions. The design thinking model, we will go in more depth, which basically is a mindset. It starts with empathy, which really aligns well with our Leader in Me focus because our children have already learned what empathy means. And so this design thinking will give a great segue into that piece. working to deeply understand the problems that people are facing before attempting to develop ideas with creative solutions. So really the aspect of design thinking that makes it very unique is that empathy piece, because it's not just solving a problem just to solve a problem. There's a purpose behind it, meaning that we want to know what the individual needs specifically. So that involves a lot of questioning and learning about the individual needs.
Just a little bit more in depth about the design thinking. This has been around for quite a little bit of time. As a matter of fact, several years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, David Johnston and I and a team went to actually be trained at the Stanford D School on design thinking. They've put some flavors of that in Sterling before Mr. Johnston left. Not a full implementation of that. With that, but it's something we've been looking at the last couple of years. We ultimately went project-based learning. You'll see some parallels with project-based learning and design thinking. There's a couple of big kind of differences in this. As Kelly already mentioned, one of the big things difference between project-based and design thinking is that design thinking really does start with the empathy piece. So finding a project, if you will, that really uses empathy to relate and connect to the person or people, in some cases, that has a problem. So the school we went out to in California, when Mr. Johnston and I was trained, that school just completed a project with Haiti, and so bringing clean water to Haiti. So designing water filters that people at Haiti could use because they were having a water crisis at the time in Haiti. And so we got there the day they actually were Skyping their final designs with the Minister of, I think it was Resources in Haiti. So it was a lady there that they were Skyping with. She was asking questions about their filters, and then they were going to be shipping those over to Haiti for trial tests in Haiti. So that was something actually they were very deeply engaged in that project, and something that was actually going to benefit the country of Haiti. And then she would Skype back in and tell them which worked and what didn't work. So it starts with that empathy piece. They typically are defining the problem. So what is the problem we're trying to solve? They'll assign, similarly, that parallel to leader and me, they're going to assign roles. So who's going to do what role during this process? The teacher will help guide that initially. As the kids become better at that, they can help self-select some of those roles as well. The ideate part is is kind of critical. They do a process within the ideate that really is about not judging any ideas. So the whole point is throw out crazy ideas, throw out insane ideas, so to speak. Because many times in the real world, especially out, again, where we were in California, there's multiple CEOs and businesses of startups out there that talked about ideas. A lot of times the most crazy ideas were the ones that we have in our hands today as inventions. And so kind of removing that judgment piece when someone throws out an idea and narrowing down. And then the prototype. So the kids actually do prototype and mock up something. So typically they're building something. It's a lot of times it's built out of materials that a lot of us would throw away as junk, but cardboard and yarn and paper and those types of things. So they're ideating, or they're prototyping their design that they're coming up with. And then they're testing it. So again, the students would have tested it at that school. The example I gave you previously, they would have tested the water filtration, but then they were also going to test it again in Haiti once they figured out where they thought they had a good design. I will say, if you remember last month's presentation, this does connect very well back to the Webb's depth of knowledge that we talked about. We talked about 1, 2, 3, and 4 Webb's depth of knowledge. It's really, a lot of the design thinking projects are going to fall into the depth of knowledge 4 process. It is going to be a more time-consuming process, but it's going to be a lot more deeper thinking and creativity involved in that. So if you think back to that presentation we did previously, it connects very well to the higher levels of rigor that we talked about, and the higher levels of rigor we really want to see in our classrooms with our students.
Okay, so this breaks down really clearly for you to see just how we are going to deliver this model. Again, this is the foundation is our Leader in Me, and the areas that the Leader in Me definitely provides for our students is setting goals, being able to be a transition person, being able to adapt, having that vision for the future, also having time management, organizing, conflict resolution. All of those soft skills that we often talk about is such a need in our workforce. We will provide that through our Leader in Me, and we have done 3 years of Leader in Me, and we have actively involved all parents in this process, teachers. We've spent an enormous amount of time just reviewing and visiting schools on the leadership model. So our teachers certainly have buy-in and support for the Leader in Me. The design thinking, which is the process that Jeff talked about, is the piece that we will go about in delivering how we will teach the standards. And we will do that through a lot of project-based learning, but with that empathy piece in mind. But that we believe will help build problem-solving skills. They'll also have that confidence that he mentioned, and also redefining and focusing on the question related to the empathy piece. And finally, the entrepreneurship piece is the area that we feel is not necessarily something that students at Summit Drive will eventually do as they become adults. They may not be entrepreneurs, but just having the mindset of being able to seek opportunity, problem solve, be able to be resourceful and resilient. We know that our workforce is changing so rapidly, and jobs that we have now may not be here 10 years from now. So we certainly want our students to be able to be thinkers and innovators.
Good morning. So we've had an opportunity to visit some schools as we have been learning more about design thinking. Our most recent visits, we went to San Diego and visited Design 39 and also VITA, 2 schools out in San Diego area that use design thinking. It's very helpful for us to be able to see the design thinking in action. To our knowledge, there's no South Carolina schools that use design thinking at this time. So Summit Drive would be the first to have that area of emphasis. So the video that we're going to show you is just a brief video that highlights the Design 39 school in San Diego. The teacher that will be talking for a good portion of this is one that worked very closely with Kelly and I and the team that went with us to San Diego. They spent a whole day with us, not only touring, but really spending time helping us to think about where are we right now with this process and how do we move forward with Summit Drive Elementary. So we'll give you a chance to see what it looks like at Design 39 in San Diego.
Because they've been exposed to design thinking at such an early age, that creativity has just blossomed. They can really think outside the box, and they really feel that there is not a problem out there that they cannot devise a solution for.
Do you want to drink that? No. See what you can do to redesign it.
At Design 39 campus, we want our students to be working on real-world work in real-world ways. Design thinking is an innovative approach to problem solving, and it's a step-by-step process, designing for a specific purpose or person. Because it's World Water Day, today's design challenge is creating a water filtration system using natural resources.
In design thinking, the first thing you have to do is empathize. If you don't do that, you won't be able to make the right thing for the person. This morning, we watched a few videos to see how other people get water.
It was about a girl that had to walk 4 miles to get water and 4 miles to get back.
And her back was aching because of that heavy bucket of water on her head. We just have to get a glass of water from the fridge.
After we showed them the video, we just shared some facts with them. Worldwide, here's how many people don't have access to clean water.
In the video, what did you notice around her? Some of the natural resources around her.
A bunch of sticks and plants.
So could she use these items?
Yes.
So for the research part, we needed the kids to experience these natural resources. What happens when you pour water through sand? What happens when you pour water through cloth?
Did he get all of the dirt?
After research, we'll define the problem. A lot of times they need to come up with the definition. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? With this one, we had a problem already defined.
So our problem is People who do not have access to clean water need a way to filter water so they don't get sick from it. What's next?
Brainstorm different ideas.
When students are ideating, we talk about rapid ideating. We don't want them to waste too much time kind of working through one idea or adding a lot of details. It's just, what if I made it this way? And what if I changed it that way?
Oh, so you're saying to like layer some of those materials?
Then they go ahead and prototype.
This is not your final building. It's like your model, so when it comes to your real one, you know what you're gonna build.
Walking around to the tables, you hear students starting to combine different ideas.
Drawing it first shows how you're gonna build it. Now we will connect a pipe right here. And then it has to turn and go upside down.
So now they have their paper model, it's labeled, so they can go and get the supplies needed and start building it.
We need a clock.
The prototyping when they're building it can be sometimes the quickest part. They have it all planned out, they know what they're building. After students prototype, they're excited to jump in and see, how did my prototype work?
What number would you say this is for turbidity?
We brought out a turbidity scale, which they would be looking for the clarity of the water, and then a ppm device, which would measure the purity of it.
So even though water might be clear, it still might not be safe to drink.
What do you see, Brandon? What number? 985.
If it fails, you have to see the problems and make it again.
The final stage in the design process is we'll have them upload into their digital portfolio. Sometimes it's about publishing results that didn't quite work so that others can learn from it.
Publishing could just be sharing out to an audience. What would they change, or what was challenging about the project? How did the group work together?
And you guys took both ideas and made it into one. And how did that make you feel, Emma?
Starting design thinking at a really early age, they'll take more risks. They start learning goal setting, problem solving, perseverance.
First attempts don't always work out. It's okay to fail and try again, because then you actually are learning something like, oh, this doesn't work, let's try this.
7:35.
I think it's good because it's not just thinking about yourself, but thinking about other people, and I think that's very important.
We spent some time with their teachers and administration talking about how they use their state standards and use themes and units to create projects for students. Of course, you're not going to use design thinking from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. It's not going to be part of every single thing you do, but it is going to be a huge component of the school. It is going to be the focus of the school. And we really feel that the marriage between the entrepreneurship and leadership will be a great combination for the school and for the students, and to provide them for essential skills that they need to be successful in middle school, high school, and beyond into careers. We've shared with you here some of the partnerships that Ms. Helms and the school has already created. You see VITA and the DC 39 down there in the bottom right. Those are the two schools that we visited in San Diego. We're excited about the partnerships with Clemson and Furman. They both have departments of entrepreneurship. So Kelly has already been doing some networking with both universities to support the work that the school will be doing going forward. Mount Vernon in the middle is a training opportunity that we are looking at. They are located in Atlanta, and they provide professional development around design thinking, and they come highly recommended. We've been speaking with other schools and districts that have been using Mount Vernon for professional development and hearing very good results with that. So we look forward to making that happen for Summit Drive. One thing that is really exciting is that Summit Drive has been approved to be an official TEDx site. Again, I don't know if we have any other TEDx sites in South Carolina. We definitely don't in Greenville that I'm aware of. But they will be having TED Talks where students will be doing TED Talks at Summit Drive to share their thinking, their ideas, and that will be a great opportunity for our students. Just listed a couple of the next steps here. We have many next steps that we're thinking about over the next several years to support this change. But as I said previously, looking at professional development for teachers in the upcoming school year for design thinking. Also developing a design process and or modify the current Leader in Me process to reflect design. So again, kind of marrying those two and looking for ways, things that they have in common to support the school's process. And we have a more detailed plan that we're mapping out just kind of year by year to support the transition. This was us at Vita, the middle school that we visited. They're the Sharks, and that's actually their front office. Very innovative school that we visited there in San Diego. Any questions that you all have?
Thank you, guys. It's great. Engaging. All my favorite topics. We've got some questions already. Ms. Goodman-Caldwell, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you for the presentation, but I wanted to ask, Dr. Rostad said something in his opening about this being a focus school. How is this, what is the student population at Summit Drive? Because I was under the impression that we were building for overcrowding of other schools. We were building a new addition there for overcrowding.
Yes.
Was I under the wrong impression?
No, that's, and as I said in my opening remarks, the reason we're sharing this with you today, it's our intent to recommend to you, instead of increasing the size of the attendance area at Summit Drive, to make this a school with priority choice to fill those additional seats.
So what are the schools that are going to be on the priority choice list for this school?
We won't know that. We would not know that until the year prior to the opening of the addition, because that would likely change from year to year, very similar to the way in which the priorities change for Fisher each year. It's a priority choice school.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand. I know that when we did the magnet schools, that was to bring kids into the city, into the schools in the city. And if this school we were building apart for overcrowding from the other schools, why are we making this school a priority choice? A choice school?
Well,
now, I'm trying to understand.
Right. Let me try to explain it a different way. The schools within and around the city of Greenville, Blythe, Augusta Circle, Stone Academy, Summit Drive to a degree. Those schools are all full. Now, Blythe has a lot of choice in there because of its status as a immersion school. The space, the physical space on those campuses is very limited. So we took the school that had the largest area of additional physical space and where we could more easily procure some additional space, and chose to recommend the addition of classrooms there. Now, once we added those classrooms, we believe that's enough not only to accommodate growth in the current Summit Drive attendance area, but it will provide additional seats. And instead of coming to you in 2 years when that addition opens and say, we want to move the attendance area, what we would rather do is fill it with people who wish to go there from areas outside that attendance area, but giving priority to the schools in and around the city of Greenville because they're overcrowded. And it's a short distance to this school from those schools.
So it'll be open to all schools, but you'll give priority to the schools that are surrounding it?
Yes, ma'am, the ones that are overcrowded that surround it. And we hope that will give us additional relief until such time as we construct the new elementary school on the site of the old J.L. Mann High School, which I believe it's scheduled to begin construction in the 21-22 school year. I don't have it right in front of me, but Betty can look it up. Is that right, Betty? Begin construction 21-22 school year, though, isn't that right? Okay.
Okay. For this program, this design thinking program, I saw where you said train the teachers. Is that are the PD funds already in your budget, or are we gonna have to go in and increase funding for the training?
This is
what would that
within,
look like?
this is within their current budget or our current district staff development funding. And the staffing of the program is within their student allocation numbers.
Okay.
They're not additional resources. Now, obviously, we focused some district professional development resources here to do this, just like we do at various other schools from time to time when they want to enhance something they're doing or add to something they're doing.
Okay, how does a school approach the administration on wanting to be a focus or a charter school like this? How was this approach?
Well, they didn't approach us about wanting to be a choice school. They approached us about wanting to have a particular focus at their school, and that aligned with our need to provide relief for overcrowding. And they would do that normally through their assistant superintendent and through Mr. McCoy's office. We have those requests from time to time from schools.
So do most of the schools have a focus, or you just have to request?
A good number of them have a focus. In fact, I think we sent something out that listed what the focus and or taglines are for schools. Did we not send something out about that recently, Ms. Fitzer? Did we not send out recently something about the focus or taglines, special emphasis by school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll be glad to resend that to you. So we have a number of them that have it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Dr. O'Connor?
This is very exciting. Thank you for bringing it. Am I on? Flashing at me, I wasn't sure. It reminds me of some of the engineering expressions around A.J. Wittenberg with the problem solving and how it kind of becomes part of each day and each class. So I wonder if there might be shared connections there for the engineering focus school that you might make as a suggestion. I'm glad to hear that there's additional professional development planned, because that video we saw would have taken a tremendous amount of play. It's like she needed to become a little bit of a science teacher to be able to pull that off as well as she did with that class. So I'm glad that we have plans for moving that way. The only comment that I have, I love the design thinking. I never would have thought of empathy being the first thing in there. That was interesting and something that I think will be a great tie with Leader in Me and empathy and drawing those two together. But I'm surprised that it's leadership and entrepreneurship as opposed to leadership and design thinking, because when I hear the word entrepreneurship, I was imagining that you were going to talk all about developing a business and the skills that relate to that, as opposed to empathy and real world design problem solving. So I just say that to say, it's probably a mouthful anyway, but if you can emphasize the design thinking in the name even, I think that would help people understand that it's not a business proposition. It's thinking about real problems and solving them with empathy. And that, to me, it's just maybe other people don't hear the word that way, but I just wanted to make that comment that the design thinking part's really exciting, but you wouldn't know it by the name. So.
And that's a great point, Dr. O'Connor. I think when we were trained out at the school in California, one of the things they kind of focused on emphasizing the districts that were coming is to certainly can include that. And you want that to be an emphasis and a part of the school. And so I cannot remember what their focus was. They had a focus as well, but then after that focus, it was a design thinking school. So kind of here's the focus, here's how we deliver it. Because they were very intentional about the fact that design thinking is a delivery model, not a school focus. areas, because they want the focus to be on entrepreneur, science. So very similar to what we do at Fisher's Esteem School, but it's powered by project-based learning. So you make a great point about that we do need to make sure that that's evident in the way we advertise and we publish and all that kind of stuff. But it's a great point, but it's strong to have it on there.
Okay, well then let me ask it a different way. Which part of this is connected to entrepreneurship? Because we didn't really.
Go ahead.
So what we have recently done, just to give you an example, we have partnered with several different companies. One in particular was Bosch Rexroth, and our fifth graders have been working on, most recently, building a car with them. And so they're taking them actually through the process of design thinking, but they're partnering with Bosch Rexroth. So our hope is to partner with businesses and eventually provide our students with an opportunity almost to intern with a partner company or a partner business in various capacities. So that's where we would want to add that element of what they're doing in the classroom and the connected piece to entrepreneurship and local businesses.
Ms. Leventis Wells.
Thank you. Well, I find this very exciting because I had the privilege of knowing Stephen R. Covey, the originator of the 7 Habits. We were at several conferences together, and he was quite a very, I would say, innovative and forward-thinking gentleman who loved what he was doing and believed in the 7 Habits, and then it just branched off. I love that. I feel like we're reaching all avenues of learning and teaching and implementation and creativity. And I love what Dr. Criswell O'Connor stated. And I think laying the foundation, now let me ask you, this process starts in all grade levels, or does it start, it's already implemented in all grade levels?
It's not implemented. Yeah, we're still making those plans.
Okay.
What we'd say, and most people would say, is really design thinking is going to really pick up in 2nd and 3rd grade, and they're going to build foundations in K1 forward. So it won't look the same K through 5.
So I like the foundation because I think that's what strengthens the program. And then I love the way that it's moved up into levels, because then you perfect those habits and values and so forth, and then you start creating, and then you implement. And I think it's great that we believe that we can create leaders in all children, because all children are leaders in their own way. And Ms. Helms, I truly believe creating mindsets of being thinkers and innovative, I think that's very important, because in today's world, you look at all these different buildings and all the different things that are happening. San Diego was a big supporter of 7 Habits in all areas, law enforcement, schools, etc. California's big into it. So I'm glad that we have really embraced this. And are your teachers engaged, and do they embrace it as well? And how do they embrace it?
They have really embraced the Leader in Me, especially this year in particular, going into year 3. They have really taken ownership. And what's been exciting for me as a principal is getting to see where they are almost taking on the leadership with the children, so that they are part of a lot of the decision making, and I am more taking a step back and allowing the action teams, which are made up of teachers on different grade levels that oversee different parts of Leader in Me, and they are the ones who are actually creating their areas of expertise within those action teams. So a lot of the decision making has become collaborative and shared decision making with our teachers and our students. have really enjoyed it because they feel valued in a way that they maybe didn't feel valued before at quite the level, because it's giving them the feeling that they can do something, whereas maybe before they didn't, and now they see the school as our school and not the teachers or the adults running it, but they're in charge of a lot of the activities that take place within the school and the decision making, having a student lighthouse team, which is very similar to a student government. So they're part of that. Parents have embraced it as well because they do habit homework. So on a weekly basis, what we do is send habit homework home with the students to do with their parents, where they have to do things like set family goals and talk about goals with their parents, talk about being proactive. And what we do is we post those on our website. So if you get a chance, please check out the website and see the habit homework pictures that our students have done with their parents. It's really interesting.
And that is awesome, because I love when everybody gets involved, not only you laying the foundation for it and being positive and creating this excitement about the leader in me, but then the ownership coming with the teachers and staff and so forth, delivering it into the students, which take it home and make it a family project as well. So there's a lot of project-based learning going on in all areas of all ages, I will say, which I really love. And I'm thinking now the parents can actually understand this kind of stuff too, instead of trying to figure out the math with their kids at home. But I really love this aspect of learning. And being proactive, that is definitely one of the major habits of Franklin Covey, being proactive and not reactive and so forth. And empathy is very exciting. But I thank you. I know that you're having a big thing next Friday. And we have the South Carolina School Board Association in next week. And some of us are leaving on Wednesday and some on Thursday. And I hate that I'm going to miss that because I know it's major. So please relay my apologies, because I would love to have been there. And I'm excited for you. And I'm excited for Stone Summit and all the surrounding areas. And I'm glad that we're going to make this available to schools that, as an overflow, can come into Summit Elementary, because I'm so proud of you and all that you're accomplishing. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I just have to say, I think I'd rather do the math. Don't bring me homework home to make me set goals and prioritize my
Well,
work.
you said you like the water thing, so I was figuring you'd like that.
Mr. Shamlin, you're up.
I can't do the math.
Read the first part of that question, Mr. Chairman.
I see the word empathy. Empathy is sort of the basis for where we start these programs, both of them, in fact. I'm just curious, how are we defining that for the kids?
The empathy piece really is embedded in all of our schools through the social emotional learning work, but just that being able to really to see others through your eyes, so to speak. So when you're doing a project like this, they introduce it through the design thinking through usually a video of some sort, like the girl walking. So trying to put yourself in her shoes, like what that must be walk through, 4 miles a day each way to go get clean water for your family. So for us, in our other schools, through Mr. Rhodes' office, through the social emotional learning initiative, that empathy is trying to create people, instead of judging quickly, to try to see how others may see various topics through their eyes.
Has the design thinking program been going at all, or is it just now getting started, or what's the status of it?
Yeah, so that is just getting started. Kelly and the team that she's taken, or we visited a school in North Carolina for the entrepreneurship piece, but really the first foray into seeing kind of outside of Kelly's research she did on her own and me being trained. They went out to San Diego to really kind of solidify this is what we want to do with design thinking. So she and a small group of teachers have the training and know what design thinking is, and then they'll be rolling that out this year with the teachers.
And the entrepreneurship part has been going now for several years.
Sorry, say that one more
The
time.
entrepreneurship part at the school has been going now for 3 years, you say?
Not the entrepreneurship, the leader in me part has been going on for 3 years at the school. The entrepreneurship will be new.
It's new. Have you been able, and this is a dumb question, I know, but can you begin to notice any significant impact of I called it entrepreneurship, but it's really the Leadership in Me program. What are the results you're seeing over those last 3 years or so?
I'll let Kelly talk about kind of the soft results. I think it's difficult to tie those to like test scores, and Summit Drive is fairly high performing already. But certainly there are, I think, some maybe soft results you might see from that, or some positive results that come out of the school from the culture and SEL parts and goal setting.
We've seen a positive impact in basically the climate and culture of the school through Leader in Me, which is the piece that we've been on year 3 with our students. Definitely utilizing, and they've become more confident. It's very interesting to see a kindergartner who can tell you what it means to be proactive as opposed to reactive and be able to give an example of that. And going into year 3, it's not just memorizing those 7 habits, but really living them every day. And the teachers do morning meetings where they talk about problems that are either going on in the classroom. And it's really helped to get the children to have words that are common words throughout the building. Seek first to understand and then be understood. And so those talking pieces and the common language throughout the school has had a positive impact in getting the children to verbalize what they're thinking and what they want to say to one another.
And what grade do you really get started with this?
We started in kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade.
Does that interfere with basic learning?
No, it actually is embedded in it. We teach it through indirect instruction, but we also teach it directly. So when we teach it indirectly, we can very easily infuse it into if the children are reading a story in the classroom and the teacher is discussing a particular character, she or he can touch on certain characters and are they conveying one of these habits, and what habit are they conveying. And so it really comes naturally into the curriculum. It's not something in addition to, it's something that's more a part of the learning process.
Yeah, and so I apologize. Could you just, in 2 words or less, define the 7 habits that we are looking at here? Per habit. I don't mean
At least 7 words.
7. Well, that's what I mean. 2 words per habit.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
Or 3. I don't care, but
So habit 1 is to be proactive, and that basically means being in control and taking responsibility, not being reactive. Habit 2 is to put first things first. That's part of the goal setting piece. And our children have leadership notebooks. We have them online, and we have hard copies, and the children set what they call WIGs, or wildly important goals, and those are goals that are academic, or they could be personal goals. So they set an academic goal and a personal goal, and they set strategies to meet that goal. And then we have other habits like think win-win, which is the component of where we start to involve other people. How can we both win? How can we both come to something that works for both of us or for the team? And then seek first to understand and then be understood, which is a good part of that empathy piece. And we also have synergize, which is, again, that cooperative learning component. And then finally, we have to find your voice, to discover what it is that you have that's a gift that you can share with others.
Well, I've been using all those my whole life, and I'm not very successful, so I'll leave that to y'all to explain better. I guess I have one last question, not a question, but a comment, I guess, is to the extent, and this is a personal thought, that we can avoid sending a lot of work home with first, second, and third graders. It seems to me that is conducive to less stress in the life of a child. And I don't know if that's something you're really trying to work on, or if we're thinking that we need to send more work or less work, or what is your approach, I guess? And this is really for all the schools, and so maybe Dr. McCoy, you can kind of give us a little.
So what I would say with the redoing of the board policies 2 years ago. When we worked through the instructional policies, we really de-emphasized homework, particularly in the younger grades, K through 3, really K through 2 heavily.
You said de-emphasize, you said?
De-emphasizing that, trying to do that as much as possible in class. I think what Kelly does with sending home the habit homework, so to speak, that's not particularly, it's more fun homework, I would say, but it's really meant to bring the family closer together and build this overall school community. But overall, the other homework, as they go up, it's going to get a little bit, students are going to have to do some things. But the board policy really was very, I think, innovative in the sense that it really said if you're going to give homework, it needs to be intentional and it needs to be personalized. And so we really emphasize that to our schools. It shouldn't be 30 problems every night for every child. So we're trying to, not there yet everywhere, but we're working on getting there.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Ms. Morrison-Fair.
Thank you for the presentation. About how many students do we have, does San Diego have?
San Diego, I should know that because she's a friend of mine. I believe they are at 56 or 57,000 overall as a district.
Okay, and how many schools in Greenville County participate in the Leader in Me curriculum?
5 or 6 schools.
Are they all on the elementary level?
Yes.
I like what you said, and I'm, pretty familiar. What do we do to bridge the gap between that elementary school and the middle school so that students maintain the discipline of the 7 habits and also your program that you are, not the entrepreneurship, but I love the empathy part. So what do we do to bridge that gap? Who are your feeder schools, or who do you intend to be your feeder schools?
So we do look at that to try to figure out how we can bridge the gap between elementary, middle, and high. So for Summit Drive, their bigger feeder is going to be League Academy. And so one thing that feeds very nicely into entrepreneurship and some of the things we teach in there is the Gateway to Technology. Kind of continues that whole designing and I cannot think of the next level class of that right now, but Gateway and Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way, kind of building, that's going to be more focused on engineering. In high school, there's various different focuses they could do. As you know, we don't have a clear feeder pattern in Greenville because they kind of scatter once they hit elementary, middle, and high a little bit because of attendance areas. But I will say what's emphasized heavily with the empathy piece, with the design thinking, is our overall fits very nicely into our social emotional learning that we are doing across every school and every district. And the habit piece, the 7 habits, really with the Leader in Me, and what we're teaching in there, we would hope by the time they finish 5th grade that those habits are truly ingrained in them. So it really wouldn't matter where they go, that we've done a good job of instilling those habits inside of them so that they will be able to take them with them and hopefully flourish in the places they're going to after that.
Well, I like what you said, but if you go to a school and the faculty has not bought into that, it's almost kind of the way we do our foreign language. Blythe is the foreign language. Then you go to a school and that's not continued. Then you have the whole middle school piece that you lose a lot of skills.
Yeah, so, and I would say that I would say our middle schools, and Dr. McDonald's certainly more familiar individually each school, but all of our middle schools really have some sort of program that they really focus on the social emotional learning aspect. So for example, Capturing Kids' Hearts is another program that's very relational driven, really training teachers and students on how to interact with each other. So while it's not exactly Leader in Me, it does dovetail very nicely with Leader in Me. And there's several of those programs. All of our middle schools have some sort, it may be homegrown, but all of our schools have some sort of program or initiative, I would say, that builds culture in the middle schools across teachers and students, which would be very in line with the Leader in Me, which is what that attempts to do. But I do agree with you. We want to continue that if possible. And we will look for more ways particularly with League, since that's a big feeder of theirs. I think Severe is another one, maybe that feed to Severe. Severe already does a lot with the, as you know, their STEAM and project-based learning. So that dovetails extremely nicely. With Lee, we'll be working with Mary Leslie over there to try to figure out what are some other ways of things they may already have in place that we can emphasize to make that connection stronger.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Morrison-Fair. Mr. Meek.
Thank you. Couple of things, I guess comment first. you know, I've been around for a little while, and, you know, I just wrote down a couple of here. No Child Left Behind, Race to the Top, Common Core, School Choice, Charter Schools, Voucher Schools. We're always coming up with something new. Is this design thinking? Is this something new? Is this going to catch on, or is it already out there?
It's already been out there. I think we were trained, like I said, with Mr. Johnson, we were trained about 8 or 10 years ago at Stanford Institute that trained us. Since then, when we were trained, it was really more of a private school focused because they don't have academic standards that they have to follow. And so what organizations like the one outside of Atlanta that Ms. Helms mentioned, they've really taken that model and kind of adapted it to public schools. So that, again, as Ms. Bird said, you're not going to do design thinking from 8 to 3 every day. Private schools, they may be able to do that because they don't have the content standards they have to worry about with the testing of students at the end of the year. So it's caught on very heavily in California, some places like Atlanta's got some outside the scope of Atlanta, and then sometimes some in the Midwest. I know there's several Chicago, Illinois schools inside of Chicago public schools that do design thinking. So I wouldn't say it's new. It's been around for a while. I think it's just it's been kind of across the board in public schools, and I think it's continuing to gain momentum as an alternative to project-based learning. It's very similar to project-based learning. We just happen to like the empathy part of it, and it fit in very nicely with Leader and Me of what they're already doing, which is why we chose that over project.
Okay, one of the reasons we're expanding at Summit Drive was to take care of the overcrowding at some of the neighboring schools. If I have a child going to Augusta Circle, Stone Academy, what is going to make me come to your school?
Well, Kelly certainly can weigh in on this as well. Just looking at it as across the board, those ones you've talked about, Augusta Circle, Stone, and now Summit Drive, they all have very different emphasis. Sorry. And so, again, for a kid who might want to do the arts, and Stone Academy might be the best place for them, but for students who, or for parents who want their students to be more, or feel like they're bent more towards something like a design thinking school or an entrepreneurship school, I think that's a big draw, just like AJ was a big draw for STEAM and for STEM and engineering. So I really think it goes down to parent choice and what they want their kids to be involved in. But we kind of felt like this would be a unique opportunity for students. We don't have an entrepreneurship school, and there's actually not an entrepreneurship school in South Carolina, as Brenda said, and there's really only one that we could find in North Carolina. So even in the Southeast, it's very difficult to find any school that's focused on entrepreneurship. So we felt that was a good opportunity to draw students, parents to the school and say, you know, we're one of the only ones in the Southeast to have this focus.
Me as a parent or a grandparent, not seeing the selling point. You know, I think of, like Dr. Paul O'Connor said, entrepreneurship is building a business, and not empathy and other things that you're selling. I'm not seeing, you know, if you go to a conference and you see a whole lot of tables and there's 1 or 2 tables nobody's going to, you know, there's a reason they're not going to it. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be critical of the program at all, but I'm saying, if, you know, there's no more in South Carolina, there's no more in the Southeast, there may be a reason, Jeff.
Well, I don't think that there's a reason for there's not entrepreneurship. I just think in most districts I'm in, very few schools actually have a focus. That's somewhat unique to Greenville that we have so many focuses. A lot of districts I go to, it's if you go to Chicago Public, it's PS such and such school. There's not a focus in that area. For me, what would draw me to a school like this, I'm very bought into project-based learning and design thinking. I'm very bought into that experiential, hands-on learning for students. So for me, that would be a selling point. It may not be for Ms. Wells as a parent, or probably would be for Ms. Wells. But somebody else, it may not. That may not be. They want the prestige of stones in their backyard, or the arts that is there. But as far as I think that the selling point, I think is to each their own, their each own family.
Well, the parents I've talked to at Stone Academy, you couldn't pry them away with a crowbar.
Probably not.
And so I'm not sure that this program at Summit Drive is going to do that. And so I'm not completely sold, Dr. Forster. You shouldn't expand the attendance area if we are expanding the school, because I know that one of the schools, if they are a Title I school, they're not going to be able to come to the school unless you give them transportation. And we're not giving them transportation. They're not a magnet school, so they're not getting that. So I'm not sure we're not building a school that'll sit empty like a Greer High School did for a while until we get more students there. So I'm not sure the kids are going to come. I'm just not sure of that yet. And it's going to take years to find out, isn't it?
Well, I think one of our biggest pushes on publishing and making something appealing, sometimes we can show videos like the Edutopia video, we can take people to schools and see the success that school has had. Part of that, though, is producing our own results, which we obviously haven't been able to do, we're not doing yet because we're not actually in the design thinking entrepreneurship piece. I think once we produce those first years of results, certainly we have something to then go out in the community and publish and promote that this is what the kids at Summit Drive are doing. And like you said, there is going to be hardcore parents at Stone that go to Stone just because of Stone, and it has nothing to do with the program. But I think
to see if they're in arts or in engineering, but I'm not sure that in kindergarten, first grade, entrepreneurship is going to sell me to say, hey kids, go there. You're going to get